Welcome to Well Published Live. People are just joining us now, so we'll get going. This is a production of the Substack MFA Lore, and I'm your host, Aimee Liu. Our topic today is agenting and authoring, combining the two. And my guest is Jenna Satterthwaite. Jenna is an agent at Storm Literary Agency, and she's also the author of 4 thrillers. My Killer Blind Date this summer will come out under her pen name, Sienna Sharp, which I want to talk about. Made for You under Jenna's name is out now. Beach Bodies will be coming out in June under the Sienna Sharp name. And New Year's Party came out with Mira on November 2025. Jenna lives in Chicago with her husband and 3 kids, and she writes Jenna's Substack, so you can find much more about her there. Welcome, Jenna.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. I was just telling you, but I'll tell everyone else, this is my first live event on social media, so fun new experience. Yeah.
Great. Okay, we don't have very many people joining us yet, so we're still waiting for a few more. If you are online, I want to welcome you, and I want to let you know that you can put questions into the chat, and we'll try to answer them. Yeah. So maybe we'll wait a little bit. I'm not seeing folks on with us yet. So we'll make sure we have a little bit. Although this will be recorded and it'll go out tomorrow morning. So that's okay. But okay, well, yeah, given that it's recording, let's just plow ahead. And
I'm seeing a lot of people joining.
Are you?
20 or 19 or 20 so far. I'm on my phone and they're kind of showing me on the bottom.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, mine is saying there's only one person. I don't know. I'm not getting the
I'm
same
seeing
signal.
21, 22.
Oh, great. Okay,
hello,
thank you.
22 people.
Hello, all you people. Okay, well, I will rest assured that probably means I can't see the chat questions because it's not connection for me.
Will I be able to see those? Let's see.
Maybe if you see something come up on the bottom, shout out.
Someone
Jenna.
just said there's 23 with a smiley face. Hi, Lindsay.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I keep trying to do this on my iPad and it keeps not really totally wanting to cooperate. Anyway, let's get going with the conversation. The main reason I wanted to have you here, Jenna, is to ask how you juggle all the work of being an agent and writing thrillers and maintaining a Substack. Jenna's Substack is such a wealth of information, and I want everybody to make sure that they subscribe to you, and you have 3 young kids. So I don't know how you do it. Tell me how you do it.
This is a question that I struggle with because I feel like it's a complex answer. I have a corporate day job. I guess I'll start there. But I've been doing it for a very long time.
Your corporate day job is agenting, I'm assuming.
No, I have another full-time. No. Yes.
Oh no.
That's what pays the bills. And then, I'm just starting my 3rd year of agenting, and so that is building, but slowly. Right now, people estimate it takes 7 to 10 years to get to the point in agenting where you're earning a full-time living. So my kind of thinking was always, I'll keep corporate job, and then we'll build the agenting, and then when I get the agenting, when, right? Not if, when. No, if as well. Once we get that to a good level, I would love to leave the corporate job. But that day is not today. So yeah, it's day job, agenting, and then authoring in the evenings and on weekends.
Do you ever
So,
see your children?
yes, I was just, like, working on a puzzle with them. They're home from school today. Chicago Public Schools is closed because of Good Friday. So yeah, we I was, like, working a little by the fire, and then they were like, "Let's work on the puzzle." So we, like, hung out a little bit and just had lunch with them. I don't know why there seems to be time for everything. It's a little bit of a mystery.
You
Uh,
must be able to multitask very well.
there's a lot of multitasking. There are a few, like, very unique circumstances that cannot be replicated. One is that my corporate day job, I'm able to do it very quickly. It doesn't take me 8 hours in a day. It just doesn't. I've been there 18 years. I know how to do the things. I'm quite fast. I'm a fast typer. That sounds so silly, but I'm just quick and efficient. And so a lot of the agenting does happen during the day as well. So I'm kind of juggling back and forth between those 2 jobs, which I consider both of them kind of my full-time occupations. And then in the evening, I try to catch up on reading for agenting because there's a lot of reading and I'm always
Yeah.
behind. And then whatever author thing I need to do, I do that as well. So right now it's proof pages, past pages for my summer book, Killer Blind Dates. I'm like 96 pages from the end, and then I never have to look at that dang book again, which is very deeply exciting because it's been a tough one. And then I'm gonna take a break. I'm not gonna write for a while, you know? I just need to not worry about writing. I'm not under contract for anything else, and so we'll see where the muse leads and where what opportunities might come up and hold it loosely. I don't know if
Yeah.
that even answers your question, but the other part of it is I do have a full-time stay-at-home dad spouse.
Oh, okay. That
Yeah, yeah.
definitely helps. All
Right?
right.
That fleshes
Okay.
out the picture a little bit. So,
Yeah.
when I decided to make the leap into agenting, I was 39. So this is what, from I guess 3 years ago, and we had, like, a combo, a little powwow, and I was like, "Listen, I want to do this. I've never worked a job I liked. Really want to try to make this my thing, but it's gonna take a lot of years and a lot of multitasking, and you're already doing so much, but I might need you to do more." And he was like, "Yeah, like, let's do it. Go for your dreams, baby." So so supportive, and ever since then, I mean, I don't set foot in the grocery store. Like, my hands have not touched a load of laundry in years. I cook on Sundays sometimes for pleasure, but otherwise, he is the meal man, the homework helper, the take the kids to doctor, you know, he does he does everything. So I do spend time with the kids, but more just I'm not the
You're the fun parent.
I'm the fun parent, yes! I'm the, "Let's do a puzzle." Like, "Let's watch Independence Day." You know, I don't know. Yeah, I get to be the fun parent, which is nice, and I don't think this will be the balance we have forever, but it's working right now, and so
Wow.
we'll keep it going as long as we can.
Good for you. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Okay, so tell me about your journey to become an agent. How and when and why did you become an agent? Where did this even idea come from?
Yeah, it came from being a writer. I had been writing since I was, like, 30 or 31. I spent almost 5 years in the query trenches. Finally got an agent. I'm still represented by her, Lauren Baker at Fine Print. She's wonderful. And then I died on sub, like, with book after book for about
Tell people what that means because you use that phrase a
yeah.
lot, and it was actually even new to me. So
Gotcha.
tell people what that
So
means.
so going on submission is when your literary agent who represents your works of fiction or nonfiction or whatever takes your book or proposal out to publishing houses, to editors at publishing houses, and tries to sell it. And that period of time where your work is out there, but you're waiting to see what happens is called being on submission or being on sub. And, you know, there's not an infinite pool of editors, sadly. Like, you know, it's a long list depending on how what your strategies and goals are and kind of how small you wanna go or if you're mainly focused on getting published with the big 5, but there's a point where you run through the list and they've said, "No, we don't like your book." So that happened to me with 5 books with my
Mm.
agent. over the course of what, maybe 4 years or so until we sold book number 6 uh, in a 2 book deal. And then I think we made that deal in May of 2023. Don't quote me. I think that was it.
Hmm.
And then we made another deal in December for my first Sienna Sharp book. And then another deal the next year for the next Sienna Sharp book. So that's 4 books total, 2 with one publisher, 2 with another publisher. But yeah, there's a trail of death behind those books of manuscript after manuscript that we just couldn't get sold. And I think it's a very common experience. It's quite painful. Waiting is always painful. Um, Editors take a very long time to read and respond. And yeah, it's like it is witnessing kind of the death of a project.
Hmm.
So yeah, that sucks. I don't know.
So
That's
then how
it.
did you get from that to be wanting to be the agent,
Oh, right.
overseeing all this death?
That was the question that I
Yeah.
started talking about, but got distracted. I tend to rabbit trail a lot, so feel free to like nudge me back on the path. So I really actually enjoyed as book after book went on sub through my agent, starting to learn the landscape of, oh, this genre belongs with these imprints that are part of these publishing houses. And this is what editors are saying about the difficulties with this genre blend or that. And I got to see all the responses. I wanted to see everything that came through. So there was an education that happened over the 4 years of dying on submission and during the sale of my first book. So seeing all that, I got really excited about strategy, um, and just how to play within the bounds of the system the best way you can. And then I had a personal loss. My youngest sister died, which seems not connected, but it was actually very connected because she died. I was 39. I was approaching like the big 40. And, anyone in their 20s and 30s, at least this was me. I feel like you see 40 and you're like, wow, that's the beginning of being old. I don't know. And funny enough, as I approached 40 and I was kind of grieving and all that, I realized, wait, the math isn't mathing. 40 plus 27 is 67, which is when I might retire. 27 years is longer than I've been working up to the age of 40. So I actually have more than half of my working life left. I'm in my prime in terms of kind of, I still have plenty of years to build something new, but enough years behind me that I'm not, what's the expression, green behind the ears? I'm not,
Wet.
I know
Yeah.
what. Thank you. Appreciate that. Uh, so I think it was just an aha moment of like, no, 40 is absolutely not old. And it's a great time to start something new if that's what I want. And I very much did want. I think going through grief always makes you reevaluate your life.
Mhm.
And that's happened to me twice. Before I started writing, I had a pregnancy loss that made me start writing. And then before I became an agent, I had another loss, which made me start agenting.
Interesting.
So I think these pivots have come from a place of like, oh, wow, life is really sucky and terrible sometimes. Where can I find respite and joy and meaning? Um, Not to fix the grief, because that's something you always carry, but um, I don't know. I don't know if it's a counterbalance. I'm not sure how to think about it. All that I can say is it gave me a kick in the pants both times to try something new, that felt more fulfilling than what I had been doing. So, with the combination of learning the agenting through my agent and the loss and approaching 40, I was like, we're going to give this a try. We'll start interning. So I got an internship and then another, and really tried to use that time as my litmus test for myself of, is this something that I'm really going to do potentially until I'm 67 or older?
What appealed to you
Whatever.
about it? What was the
Oh,
appeal?
what was not the appeal? I mean, it's only the best job that exists. You get to partner with people. I love people. Don't know if you can tell. People are great. Um, they're cool. I love them. And when you're working with an author, you get to have a really special relationship with someone as you work on their artistic products. And it's so special. I felt that somewhat in the music world, which I used to be part of as well. There's something about, I don't know if I can call it co-creation. It's not like I'm writing the book with my author, but this participatory, almost intimacy that comes about
Mhm.
through working on something together that makes my heart like just explode with joy. So I already knew I felt that way from beta reading and critique partnering when I was a writer. Like, oh, I love working with people on their books. I
Mhm.
have an editorial eye. I learned that. I've also written a bajillion books and have learned a lot about structure and pacing and how to fix problems. Um, and then this is going to sound crazy because I never would have said this, but it turns out I like sales. So I've been in sales or sales
Mhm.
adjacent roles my whole corporate life, and I've hated it, even though I've been successful at it. I didn't enjoy it. So I thought that I didn't like sales, but then I kind of realized I actually love it if I'm selling something that I believe in, and that's books.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like a sales job. It is a sales job, but it's me getting to, I don't know, like burst with passion, but in a contained way, in a contained,
Right.
strategic, and professional way, via Zoom or via email or however I'm communicating with these editors. I get to really try to convince them this book is going to blow your mind. And here's why you need to buy it. Makes me
That's so
happy.
cool.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the rejection sucks. Like, you said earlier, what made you want to do this was that the rejection
Y
of being on submission is terrible and it gets very multiplied when you're an agent. I get rejections every day. There is not a single day that goes by. Sometimes not even a Sunday. Editors reject all days of the week.
Mm.
Um, but especially Monday through Friday. Every day, probably 6 or 7 rejections for different authors and projects. So they're just coming in a nonstop flood. Um, Tough, but it is different experiencing it as an agent rather than as an author. As an author, it's your one book usually. Maybe you have a couple on submission, but usually one. And it sucks because a door is closing. But as an agent, I have, maybe 20 books on submission. And even though it still stings, I have to move on quickly. I can't dwell. Find another editor to send it to, reevaluate whatever I need to do. It's just a much more active position. Whereas as an author, you're just waiting. Once
Is
your
that
agent
part of
has
the
sent it
reason
out.
why? Because most people say, "Oh, I'm a writer, I'm an author,
Mhm.
this is all my eggs are in this one basket." I mean, that's certainly me. I couldn't
Yeah.
I don't have the personality. I could never be an agent, but so that's part of why you fascinate me so much because I can't even imagine doing both. The next question then is how does agenting affect your own writing career, and how do
Mhm.
you view your writing career in this general
Yeah.
framework?
I've always viewed it as a cherry on top. I know how hard it was for me to sell that first book. And even as I've been doing my past pages, I'm like looking at them. They're sitting across the room taunting me. Um, I hate doing past pages. It's when you're catching the final errors before it goes to print. So you're really going through slowly, marking typos, realizing there's a logical inconsistency on page 32. It's very painstaking. But I've been very aware this time this could be my last set ever of past pages. I have no other book that I've sold. I have one now that's dying on submission again. Um, once if that dies, I have nothing else ready to send out. And I may write more books or I may not, and I may or may not be able to sell them. So I'm just so aware that the authoring life is fickle and there are authors who are able to do it for the long haul. And I think, well, I know one of the things they do is pivot. Maybe you start with literary fiction and then a nonfiction opportunity comes up and you pivot to that. Maybe you pivot into kidlit. Maybe you pivot into ghostwriting. So I imagine writers like little squirrels. I don't remember who I was using this metaphor with the other day, but we were laughing a lot. And, you know, the squirrel cannot stay on one branch. Like if you're gonna continue to stay active as a writer, as an author, you've got to leap from opportunity to opportunity and to different branches and so forth. And I've done that somewhat. I've got my name and my pen name. They're a little different, you know. Could I pivot more? Yes. Do I have it in me to keep pivoting for 20, 30 years? I don't know. Open question. We're taking it a year at a time, a day at a time. I don't know. One of the two. So I think I just have never trusted the ability to stay in the game for any promised or specific amount of time because there are no promises. And I don't like putting any eggs in the basket of uncertainty. I'll say any financial eggs. I don't mind putting myself out there. That's fine. But, trying to financially rest on a career as an author, very few people can do that or get to do that. And I'm not going to be one of them.
Interesting. You've just described my entire career, and it's absolutely true.
Oh,
I've pivoted. Those are my books behind me. There's nonfiction and historical fiction and different kinds of fiction, and then I ghostwrite. My ghostwriting books are all up there, and so I have all these different hats, and have done all this different kind of writing, and it's definitely that. And I've never been the primary breadwinner in my family.
mm,
So, yeah, it's
yeah.
fascinating to hear your perspective, which is really very smart and very honest
I mean, I
and really
admire
interesting.
what you've done and what I've seen other writers do where you're able to keep going and find the next opportunity. That is so cool. And I think it's fine for some of us to say, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I
Yeah,
want to.
it's very unnerving. I mean, in between projects, if you don't have another one coming, and of course, like a lot of authors, I've had the experience of books that had great promise come out at the wrong moment, like right at the beginning of a war or right at the
Uh-huh.
beginning of the pandemic where the book dies for reasons that have nothing to do with the book.
Yeah,
And so as an author, you're always falling prey to whatever things are that are happening. But
yeah.
back to one of the questions I was curious about with you is you write thrillers and
Mhm.
they're very commercial. And I wonder if that's the kind of book that you like to represent. I mean, how does your writing career and your
Mhm.
writing tendencies affect who you choose to agent?
Um, I would say when I first started signing people, thrillers are an area that I have a good sense for. I've read a lot of them, just to stay on top of the genre as I wrote them, and then that's where I get asked for blurbs to blurb other authors. So I mean, I keep gesturing to things you guys can't see, but right now I'm gesturing to a giant pile of books by my nightstand, which include a lot of books that I've blurbed and gotten advanced reader copies of. So I think going into agenting, I did want to sign thrillers because I feel like I understand what's appealing right now to editors. And I've signed a few. I've sold some. Um, a recent release was my client Jennifer Vanderkloot's The Better Mother. It just came out with Crooked Lane. It's doing super well. There's film interest happening, very exciting. And I remember reading that one my first year aging and being like, yes, this is it. This is, but it's nothing like what I write. I feel like it's not a book I could have written. I don't feel like we're necessarily stylistically similar, actually. Just that because I've read so much in the thriller space, like I knew there was a readership for this one, or
Mhm.
I thought. Now I know, right? But at the time, I believed there was a readership for that one. But I have not stayed in the thriller space since I opened to queries for the first time 2 years and 2 months ago. Hmm. I was determined to open very widely to fiction, nonfiction, all the age groups, absolutely everything. Because I'd been told by older and wiser agents, you just don't know what you're going to be good at. You might think you know, but hang tight, sweetheart, and you know, don't pigeonhole yourself too quickly because you haven't done it yet. So I heard that advice from multiple people before starting and really took it to heart, and they were absolutely right. I did not think I liked horror simply because I had read no horror. Like, I guess I accidentally missed out on, like, an entire genre as a reader in my 20s and 30s. But people started submitting horror to me, and I was like, "Oh, this is horror? This is awesome! Like, I love it!" And it's probably the genre I've sold the most of, which I find
Really?
endlessly surprising. Um, and similar with romance, I had my, like, Emily Henry, but I was reading mostly thrillers. That's the space I was writing in. I didn't really have a sense of what was happening in romance. Now I do, but back then. But I found some romance books in the query inbox that really spoke to me, and that might actually I said horror. I might have sold the most in romance, actually, followed by horror. It's one or the other. But it's 2 genres that I wasn't well read in before starting. And I think there's actually a strength. This may sound weird. I may be wrong, but I'll try it anyway. I have felt there's a strength in not being an expert in some genres, like even science fiction. Haven't read a lot of that, but it was one of the first books I signed and sold was a sci-fi. And I remember thinking, "You know what? I don't know what's going on with sci-fi, but as a general reader, part of the general population, I find this very appealing." And so if as a person who's not a deep sci-fi genre reader, I love this, I know other people will too who aren't sci-fi readers. And so that's been a bit of my guiding star. If I, in my mind, represent a kind of general reader who reads kind of broadly, if something speaks to me, I go for it. And I've
Do any of
had a
these
lot of
bleed
luck.
into literary, or are they all very commercial?
So mostly commercial. I do like literary. Ah, I I don't have as good of a sense for it. So I have signed one strictly like literary lit fic, not even like upmarket, it's just literary. I've not been able to sell it yet. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's amazing. We'll see what happens there. And I would say the other project that you could call it literary or you could call it book club or upmarket, is actually a wonderful book y'all should put on your TBRs, your to be read lists. It's called Family Language, and it's coming out this fall. Author is Nicole Nelson, and she's brilliant. It's coming out with Melville House. Just saw cover designs for it, so very exciting part of the process. And it's this beautiful book about a woman who has chosen to have a child-free life with her partner, but then there's a tragedy, and they end up needing to adopt his nephew. Well, their nephew, but by blood, his nephew. She's also a very successful researcher and like college professor on tenure track, trying to get tenure. And so it's very much this beating heart of tension about, oh, you know what I'm going to say, the expectations placed on women, the gender
Mhm.
expectations, and her her journey as she navigates that. And what I love is that there are not simple answers. There's nothing pat about this book. It's very real and very raw and just to me breathtaking. So I was very happy to sell that because when I signed it, I was like, I mean, I feel this way about all my books. I have to sell this one. But I remember like the joy of finding an editor who really got this book. So put that on your
Mhm.
list. Family Language coming out this fall. Yeah,
Fantastic.
so I do get into literary and upmarket, but I think it's hard. I would love to sign more upmarket. It's hard for me to find things that, how do I say this? Upmarket blends literary writing with a propulsive slash commercial plot that can still be described kind of succinctly. So it takes kind of the best of literary and the best of commercial, and it's somewhere in there. And it's hard to find writers who can do both.
Right.
It just is. I can find the literary people, I can find the commercial people, but to find someone who has the gorgeous writing and has a sense of page-turny plot instinct, I just that's like the needle in the haystack for me.
Yeah.
And those are a lot of the books that have been, like, really big, I think. I
Yeah.
mean,
We were
when
just
I think of
talking before we got started, we were talking about Christina Baker Klein, who's going to be my guest
mhm.
later in the month. And her books are like that. The
Oh,
quality of the writing is superb and the story, the historical basis, but she also
mhm.
knows how to tell a story and keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving. So you have to
Yes,
keep turning those pages. Yeah, she's a
that's the
master at it.
golden egg. If any of
Yeah.
you have that book and are querying, please reach out to me as soon as possible. I want
Right.
more. I have some and I am hungry for more.
So, before we leave the topic of your own books, you had 4 of them coming out within the space of a one year. Those were all books that you wrote and sold before you became an agent? And how did 2 of them end up with pen names? What
Yeah, so my debut, which is Made for You, came out in 2024, summer 2024. That I had written during my sister's cancer before her death. So before that, before I became an agent, um, the second book in that contract, The New Year's Party, which is my most recent release, I wrote at the beginning of the year when I started to decide to become an agent and got some internships. So yes, 2 books were written before I started my first internship and officially launched my agent journey. The other 2 I've written since becoming an agent. Actually, one I started no, yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, because the one I sold in December, I sold on proposal and then became an agent in January. So yeah, I've written those 2 books during agenting, and it's been a struggle. It's
oops.
it's not infinite despite the fact that we were talking about balance, and I feel like it's okay for now. It's hard to pull from that creative well after spending like a whole day line editing someone else's book. I don't know if it pulls from exactly the same place, but I get tired of looking at words, including my own. But
Okay.
when you're on contract, you have to deliver the thing that they paid you to do. So for both of my Sienna Sharp books, there was definitely that sense of like, oh, my energy is much more drained doing this other job, but I still have to yank it up and like make it happen.
So
Um,
why the pen name? Talk to me about that. I've never understood quite the whole MO for pen names, pseudonyms. Why do you do it?
yeah.
What does it accomplish?
Yeah. So I won't speak to all the reasons that one uses pen names because there are just a lot of different scenarios that I think warrant consideration of a pen name or where your publisher might want that or etc. But for this, I was under contract with HarperCollins for 2 books and there were option clauses and non-competes. And
Oh,
so, when this opportunity for the Sienna Sharp, well, at the time they weren't under Sienna Sharp, there was just an opportunity for a thriller romance. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this contractually, but let me just have my agent put my name in the ring because it sounds like a fun idea. And this was a UK house, Penguin Random House, UK, and they were looking to fill a specific slot on their list. They wanted someone to write a beachy thriller romance. And I was like, I bet I could do that. Um, but I wasn't really sure if I could yet, again, like legally. So, but I was like, we'll start. And if we have to pull back, we'll pull back. And surprise, surprise, they wanted to hire me to do it. So at that point, we did have to go back to my editor and be like, hey, there's a chance that Jenna's might want to do this. And like, we can use a different name. So that was part of it. And it's a different genre. It's not really that different, but it's a thrill. It's a little different. It's a thriller romance. My other ones are just mysteries and thrillers, and they don't have to have a happy ending. You can twist the knife at the end a little bit like thriller readers love, including myself. But with a thriller romance, there had to be a happy romantic ending. And so it's a different vibe. It's a bit fluffier. There's still murder. There's still twists. It's not that different, but we I don't know. It was a
um,
positioning so that I could do the job and get the money. And my publisher in the UK did want a pen name to distinguish it from the darker stuff and a cover design that was like I think they described it as Emily Henry meets murder. So it
do
was
you have
2
to promote it?
publishers trying to yeah, yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
you
It's
go
a
out
pen.
and do
It's
you present yourself as Sienna Sharp, or do you say
I
I'm
say
actually Jenna, but
so it's all together on my Instagram. I both all the books are on there, and then Jenna Satterthwaite also writes under Sienna Sharp. So it's not a secret. The publishers know about each other. It's more just 2 different lines of books, which helps me make more money. If you can do it like that contractually and you have the ability to write quickly, you know, more bucks. I don't know.
interesting. Okay.
So, yes, I do promote it. I did a book launch. Source Books is my US publisher for Beach Bodies, which is called A Killer Getaway in the States, and that came out last summer, like a few months before my New Year's party book. And yeah, I did the traditional book launch. I did sign Sienna Sharp, but I wasn't pretending to be Sienna. I was like, Jenna writing is Sienna. And it was my friends and people who knew me mostly who showed up. Oh my gosh, though, including like one fan. And this sounds so silly, but as a fairly still new author, like I don't think of myself as having fans, but this wonderful young woman showed up and she was like, Jenna, I'm your biggest fan. And I was like, oh, you're not a relative or like acquaintance from school or wherever. Like, you're an actual fan. It was like a mind blowing moment to have someone show up that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I had that occasionally, and it's quite. I once it was very embarrassing. Though I was moderating a panel, and my one of my very small handful of fans showed up and started to sing my praises, and I was supposed to just be the moderator. I was getting very dirty looks from the other panelists.
You're not supposed to
Sometimes,
be the star.
yeah, I wasn't supposed to have fans there. No, it was really funny. Um, so you recently posted on your Substack a great post about the length of time it takes you to sell a book, which is all over the map. And you also talked about big agents sometimes dropping clients if if the book doesn't sell fast enough.
Yeah.
Um, so what is that length of time, and how do you, if you've got a book that's out on submission and
Mhm.
it hasn't sold in 5 months, how do you decide whether to keep going with it, or what do you tell the author? And
Mm.
you've got one story, right, of a three-way auction for one book that got its first offer on day
Yes.
357. Tell us that
Yeah.
story and tell us what your thinking is as the agent in the middle of something like that.
So I all agents do this the same, and I may pivot in the future to some different method. Right now, my strategy is I don't really officially pull books from submission. I just kind of keep going until there really aren't any editors left. I have like a little Excel sheet for each book that's shared with the author, and so they can see all the editors that have it, what date they got it, what date I followed up, when they confirmed receipt, what they said, if they rejected. All of that info is shared with my authors, unless they request not to see it for mental health reasons, which none of them has done yet, but they have the choice. Um, so you know, I tell them kind of we'll do a big first round, we'll do a second round. There, I'll mark who's going to be second round. There might be a small third round, but after that, it's really going to slow down dramatically. That doesn't mean I'll stop. If I hear an editor has left, I'll send it to someone new. Um, maybe a new imprint springs up and I'm like, "Oh, that book from 2 years ago could be perfect," you know? So I don't officially declare anything dead, even though in practicality there is a time when the well has dried up and may only receive a few droplets of water moving forward. Um, yeah, some agents don't do it that way. They'll set a closing date by a certain point and kind of officially just close everything out. It didn't sell, they move on. And I think that is a fine strategy as well. I've just heard too many stories of books selling after multiple years. Uh, and it pains me to give up all hope. So maybe it's a psychological like thing that I just do for myself to like we have not failed yet. There could still be someone out there if I just find the right person.
Do you
So
ever send the books back to the author for editing between like round one and
no.
round two?
The only time I've done that, so I've only done that once ever, and it was because there was very clear feedback, and it was a very genre blendy book. It combined a lot of different things, and it felt like too much. People didn't know how to position it. I loved the book like that, and so did the author, but we kind of circled back and we're like, "Okay, we've gotten the same rejection like 4 or 5 times." That's like a resounding agreement across houses that this element is just too out there. And so she rewrote it over the holidays and we sent it out again in January. Other than that, there tends to not be consistent feedback. And I never count
Mhm.
on that. I'm not expecting that. Editors will reject the same book for wildly different reasons within the same day. It's happened to me. I see it all the time with my authors. So I think it's quite rare to get consistent, actionable editorial feedback.
Were you able to
Um,
sell that book after it was redone?
Not yet. It's been out
Mm,
for 2 months, 2.5 months now. I'm still hopeful. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if many people think of that as early days. In my mind, that's early days. I sell a lot of books
Well, tell
later
us
on in their
that
life
story
cycle.
about the three-way auction in day 357.
Oh my gosh. So this is an author who I signed after an R&R in my early agenting days. Lovely person. She did this wonderful revise and resubmit. That's what an R&R is before I signed her. So I read it. We had a call. I was like, it's not working in these ways, but if you can fix it, I'll read it again. And I did, and I loved what she did. So we signed together. And no joke, we went out. She proceeded to get, oh my gosh, was it two or three R&Rs from editors, which is nuts. Maybe it was just two, but she had already done the one with me. The first R&R that we got was insane. It was like the editor wanted a completely different book, and we talked about it. We were like, "No, this is like 100% rewrite. Like, just no, we're not gonna do it." But then we got another R&R that did resonate. So I guess actually to your point, yes, sometimes there is editing after you go out, but only if an editor is specific, wants to look at it again, and shares detailed notes. That is a case where you often will do edits for them. So we edited for this editor. She ended up passing, but I sent the new version to everyone. And it was really dwindling. I was struggling to find new people to send it to, or like approaching a year of being on submission. And I sent it out to one new place that I found. And I don't remember how long it took them to get back, but they were our first offer. And I was so excited, got to call the author, tell her we had an offer. So then, I went back to all the other editors who had it and I was like, we have an offer. And I wasn't expecting necessarily any other bites because everyone else had had it for so long. Lo and behold, two other parties wanted it. And one of the two parties had had it for a year.
Oh
I mean, had
my
had it the whole time.
God.
I know. And they ended up being the high bidder. It was a solid deal. I was very happy with the money aspect,
Oh my
2 book
God.
deal. And so they won. This happened like while I was on summer vacation. I was driving to Cedar Point with my children and like this auction is happening and I feel like auctions always happen when I'm on vacation, so I should go on vacation more often. But the author and I were just like, my gosh, after 3 revise and resubmits, one including mine, and almost a year, we had a friggin' auction for this wonderful book that's now coming out early next year. So yeah, that's not even my longest sale. I just sold a book that's been on submission for actually I can check and tell you. I have like a little tracker. Let me just move this for a second. All projects on submission is the name of my spreadsheet. D 471 days.
Wow. I can beat
Um,
that. I have a friend who she had a book that had gone out 25 years earlier, and an editor remembered there was a big kind of a revival about Margaret Mead, and she remembered that she'd seen this book about Margaret Mead's young sex life 25 years ago, and she pulled it out and went back, and it was published a few years ago. Yeah, yeah, just an
25
amazing.
years.
Yeah, yeah, really.
That is
That's the best story.
that's the best. Okay, that story wins. I have nothing to offer that can compete with that. Well, that proves
You've
the point. A book is never totally dead. It doesn't
no,
have to be.
no,
Um,
no,
but yeah,
no.
I mean, you were asking how long. I don't know if you said on average, but I mean, I have a spreadsheet. I'm just going to read you numbers for 1 second. So this is the number of days between when I sent a project out and what day we got the first offer. Not the first interest, like, oh, I really like this, or we're second, but like the offer with the money in my inbox. All right, 219, 10, 35, 257, 35, 50, 131, 58, 39, 471. That's actually the full set of the books that I sent out for my first year and how long
Wow.
they took to sell.
That is
So it's all over
really
the
all
map.
over the map.
It's you cannot predict. And people ask me on offer calls when I'm offering to be their agent. They will often say, like, how long on average does it take you to sell a book? Like, my precious darling,
Yeah. It's
if
like,
I
how
could
much
give
can
you a
I expect
number.
to make?
Right. And it's a valid question. I think it's a question that opens up this answer of like, a chance to tell them, we can't predict it. Here's some numbers of how long it's taken me, and we just don't know.
Right.
So yeah, I don't hate the question at all. I think it's, of course you're thinking that. I was thinking that as an author going out on submission. But yeah, I think to your point of the post I made recently about fancy agents, there are some that will give it a very short amount of time to sell before pulling it and kind of discarding the author. Um, and I just don't understand that because
Yeah.
statistically, I think they're losing actually quite a lot of
Well,
money
I think the
by
other
not
thing
giving
about
it more
fancy
time.
agents, because I have a fancy agent, is they really are only interested in going to the big five publishers. So you run that list pretty quickly.
You
If
do.
you're not going to
Yeah.
go to smaller presses or university presses or foreign presses, um, you
Hmm.
run out of gas. They run out of gas pretty quickly, which is, I think, a consideration for
Yeah.
people who are looking for agents. Do they want to automatically, is going to the big fancy agent really the best move for them? So when authors come to you for advice who are looking for agents, what do you tell them? I mean, obviously you've got
Mhm.
certain priorities for who you want to work with, but say a friend of yours is an author and a literary author, and they come to you and say, my book is ready. It's really ready.
Mhm.
Where should I go? What kind of agent should I be looking for? What do you tell them?
Um, okay. I'm gonna say this knowing that other agents disagree. I do think you should kind of throw spaghetti at the wall. There are too many agencies to research everyone with great care. There are just so many. There are hundreds. So I think, you use the internet resources of literary agencies and you do look at their websites and try to find ones that seem decent and legit. But you only worry about the research once you get an offer. I mean, you can still research if you have the time and the desire, but you also don't have to kill yourself or break your back, really vetting everyone and Googling every person because they might just give you a quick form rejection in like 2 days or they may ghost you forever. And I don't think that research is wasted if you do choose to do it. It helps prepare you for the next book that you might write and want to query with agents. So I'm not anti-research, I'm not saying that, but I am saying there's nothing wrong with just kind of, you know, sending it out quite widely and seeing what comes back. And then really it's when there's an offer on the line that you really should do a deep dive. And if you have whisper networks, tap those. If you
What do you
don't,
mean?
try to find some. Whisper networks are basically groups of people in discords, private discords, or chats, or people interacting via direct message on social media. And that's where kind of the most interesting information about publishing gets exchanged. So,
Hmm.
even in my case, when I wrote my recent post about fancy agents, I'm not disclosing names. I'm not disclosing agencies or the author names of those who have shared the stories. It's all a bit hush hush. There are agencies that could sue me that are large and have lots of money if I discredit them online. Not to mention, I don't want to be that person who's out there like talking crap about specific people without actually having met them. I have heard a lot of these stories from trusted people, but that's secondhand. It wasn't my experience with the agent, it was my friend's experience or my coworker or this or that person.
Mhm.
So I don't want to be in the business of, having like a public blacklist. But, if people want to direct message me and say, "Hey, I got an offer from so and so. Have you heard anything about them?" I'm always happy to share privately, and most people are. So I would say if you get an offer or you have multiple offers and there's like an agent that you're mutuals with, or maybe that represents your friend that you're kind of friendly with, that you can direct message, or published authors that you can be like, hey, or I should say represented authors. Um, have you heard anything about these people? That can be very valuable because since everything is hush hush, you're not going to be able to Google the name of an agent and really find out all the things that might be relevant in your decision making.
Mhm.
So, I hate to say that whisper networks are here to stay, but I don't see a way around them.
Right.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Great. I always recommend to people that they just look to they start creating a writing community
yeah,
as soon as they decide they wanna be writers,
yeah,
and make
yeah,
sure that they keep track of people they meet at writing conferences and keep stay in touch with, teachers that they had take classes with and all of
mm,
that because all that whole network is so valuable as time
yes,
goes on, both to get people who will read your work and give you feedback and also who will give you advice like you're talking about. That's to create
yeah.
I never called it create your own whisper network, but that's really what it is,
No, and I
basically.
like you
Yeah.
just called it a network, and that's what it is. I shouldn't have called it a whisper network. Tap your network. And the
Right.
network isn't just there to hear about the secret crap that so and so might
Right.
be doing. It's there to
Yeah.
for you to support each other and
Yeah.
beta read each other, critique partner each other's work, and it's be friends and support each other.
Mm.
So it's there for many things, but one function can be when the decision time comes to kind of see if there's anything you really need to know, any red flags about an agency or an agent. And I get direct messages all the time like this. I've had someone send me like a contract once from I won't name it, but a literary agency that's a bit sus, and it was a terrible contract. And so I told them, I was like, this here's the problematic part. This sucks, this sucks, this sucks. I'm not gonna tell you to do it or not, but this is substandard
Yeah.
language.
Yeah.
So,
The
you
Authors
know,
Guild is very good for that too. You can see
yes.
what an ideal contract looks and you can measure how badly yours compares, so that they're
Yes.
fantastic.
Huge
Yeah,
resource.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, switching gears a little bit, this is just, it's a question that I always wanna ask agents right now because this is such an insane time in the world
Oh,
and
yeah.
politically and everything, and I've never seen political pressure on books and language and communication,
Mm.
coupled with what's happening with AI. And everybody I know in publishing, sort of pretend like it's all normal. And I haven't been able to get very many people to
Oh.
acknowledge that these are not normal times for publishing or anything else. And I ask you if you're seeing anybody copping to we're living in a very strange time right now, and it's gotta affect the books that are greenlit and the
Yeah.
agents and the editors and, who gets hired and how people are looking at AI books. I mean, I'm published by Hachette, so I've just
Mhm.
been watching this nightmare over this book
Oh,
that was canceled because of
exciting.
AI, and I don't know what's right and what's wrong about that story. I'm not gonna say except that, you throw AI into the middle of publishing and it's like a big bomb is going off. So,
Hmm.
how do people stay sane and how do they see life going forward, or maybe that's a good
Hmm.
reason to stay in the commercial commercial fiction because it's sort of escapism from all of that, and maybe it is separate. But do
Oh.
you hear people talking about this in the business?
Yes, every day. We're all freaking out.
I
Okay, we're
find
not
that
freaking
somewhat
w
reassuring. Okay.
yes, so I'm in a wonderful little Discord with I don't remember how many of us there are now, like, it's 12 of us, maybe 15 max, like, a small group of agents, and that is my lifeline, and literally this week last week too, the past few weeks longer than that, but especially the past few weeks, we've been really going in there, I'm like, WTF, WTF, WTF. What is going on? I mean, the editor layoffs right now are kind of insane. In the past 2 weeks, Dial Press for Young Readers has closed, and Roaring Brook at Macmillan has closed. So they laid off editors, reshuffled other editors, and this is on the heels of Simon and Schuster Kidlit having a ton of layoffs across imprints. I don't remember if that was end of last year or early
Mhm.
this year, but recent. And then Little Brown for Young Readers had a big reorg and layoffs.
This all
Um,
related to censorship?
um, so I have not heard one give a clear answer. And there was an article about this yesterday, I think in Publishers Lunch, about how there's not really a clear consensus, no,
Mhm.
about what is happening with Kidlit. Kidlit sales are down. I think young adult sales have dropped. I want to say middle grade has remained steady. Do not quote me on that, but it was already low. So I don't know if we like steady. We like not further down. Picture books took a big hit as well. So I think everyone in Kidlit is freaking out, and just the amount of editors that have left in the past 2 weeks, but more broadly, maybe in the past 4 months or so, is astounding. And I can barely keep up. It's like, and you're going back into your submission spreadsheet, like, okay, who had what project? And did this person get laid off or did they move? And this is where whisper networks on the agent side are cracking. And like, before it gets announced, we usually have heard somehow and are like, okay, so who is where? What's going on? It just feels like dire times for Kidlit. And I signed 3 young adult authors last year, and I've not been able to sell any of their work
Mhm.
yet. We are still trying, and most of them are working on their next book, or I have their next book in my hand. So we're not giving up, and I'm certainly not giving up hope, but it's very tough with young adult acquisitions right now. In my opinion, um, the waters are muddied a little bit by there's kind of the new adult creep and the young adult kind of heading towards adults. I don't think it's bad to start distinguishing those categories and saying that like really sexy books that maybe 10 years ago we were putting out as young adults and they're kind of actually adult characters in disguise and we're just calling
Oh,
them
yeah.
18.
Yeah.
Yes, those should be a different category of books, potentially shelved somewhere differently in bookstores. I'm all for that kind of clarity, not as any kind of purity check, but just it's not the same as Kidlit.
Mhm.
It's just like it's
Mhm.
different.
Yeah.
And then, whether or not teenagers read them is up to them and their parents or however that whole thing works. But I'm not against that division, but I have seen a proliferation of those imprints and a lot of Kidlit editors doing a lot of their big deals in those categories instead. So this would include Scarlet Press, which is Simon and Schuster's new kind of new adult venture, and the Kidlit editors are acquiring for that new adult imprint. Berkeley
Mm.
Exo on the Penguin Random House side. What's the one that has
So
shut?
when you say new adult,
Yeah.
like who would that be aimed at? Like 20 somethings?
Mm, the same people that are reading Sarah J. Maas, basically. So, I would say older teens and young 20s, but people of any age who enjoy spicy
Hmm.
young protagonists.
Right.
Which I love me a spicy young protagonist. I'm not
Yeah.
against that either. I hope no one is
Yeah.
hearing that. But I
Mm.
wonder how much of the money is going into now that it's been separated out of Kidlit, if that's partly why young adult is taking a hit is because some of those titles used to be in there and did inflate the category, and
And
now
what
they're
about
kind of being
political
parsed out.
pressure? Are people thinking about what
Yeah,
politically will be possible in the next? We've got 2+ more years of Trump. I mean,
yeah,
and all of that.
yeah,
And is that, you know, and the
yeah,
timeline of books is, you sign a book today, it doesn't get out for another year and a half to 2 years, and he's still in office, and who knows?
right,
I don't know. How do people compute all of
yeah.
that?
I think what's tough is that an editor would never I think, and editors, if you're on there, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think an editor would ever be able to be transparent about that with an agent. I don't think an editor would tell me to my face, "We can't acquire this type of book by this type of author because of book bans, sorry." Because that would be potentially explosive. If that was exposed, then there's backlash. So I think everyone stays quiet and doesn't say the loud part loud, if that makes sense. But yes,
Yeah.
publishers are for-profit entities. They want money. And when there are book bans that are keeping kidlit books by, say, a trans author out of school libraries or out of um, kids' hands, or just general libraries. I mean, there's craziness happening. Yes, a publisher is gonna become aware of, "Oh, yeah, we're not able to sell this to our market," because
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
market of the publisher is not individual readers, right? Publishers are selling to bookstores and to libraries, and if they won't stock the books, then
Right.
money can't be made. So, I think it's so discouraging because I don't know, publishing is always yapping about needing diverse voices, which is great. That is accurate and true. We need them. And then you see the buying decisions that are being made, and they just don't always match up with
Yeah.
the lip service. And
Yeah.
I say that also knowing that the editors aren't the bad guys here. I speak to editors, they are for the most part liberal and all for diversity in the books that they're publishing. But it's not the editors who are making the acquisition decisions. They are just the
Yeah.
first step. They take it to their meeting. And then there's the sales team that has a huge voice in whether or not things get acquired, whether they think they can sell it into their accounts. So I think it's going to be very hard to find any honest voice who's just going to tell it like it is, because probably all of us who are touching the books, so the editor and the agents and so forth, we want the best for our authors and for reading in America, and but we can't necessarily accomplish that. And I don't know. It's tough. I wish
It's
someone would just come out and say it. But yeah, book bans for sure are going to influence publishers' buying decisions, and it sucks.
yeah.
On that note, you all should buy my client Alex Rittney's book, which is coming out next week. And it is a beautiful young adult trans romance with a time loop and a body swap and all kinds of
Oh, great.
heart-wrenching scenes that will make you weep. So it's called Maybe Tomorrow I'll Know. And again, Alex Rittney is the author. It's out on Tuesday. And I think maybe that's a hopeful note to land on is editors are still fighting, agents are, and editors are still fighting for books that have diverse representation and beautiful things to say. And
And
this
was that
editor in
from a
particular,
small press or from a major?
that's from Norton, Books for
Oh,
Young Readers. Yeah.
major. Great.
Yeah. And Kristen, the editor, Kristen Allard, is just a phenomenal champion. And I think of all the editor author pairings through book sales that I've been able to bring together, this is one of the most stellar pairings because Kristen just gets it. And so I think it's encouraging to me to see she's going to bat. They're going to do everything for this book. Um, Exciting things are happening for this author that I can't talk about, but there's a lot of support from the publisher. And I think I see, Peachtree, which is smaller, but I would say still a very important, like there's a smaller entity doing big things in young adult right now. They're also very committed to their authors and to diverse voices, and they're putting out lots of awesome stuff. And so there are editors out there doing great work, and I don't know, we're gonna get through it, and it
Yeah.
may not be fun.
Yeah.
Uh, that's okay.
That's so
I mean,
great.
it's not okay, but
Yeah. Yeah.
people who care
Writing
about
matters and
books.
all these voices matter. So that's it's wonderful. Jenna, before that you're right. That's a great place to land. And we've been talking for an hour, so I think we're about to wrap it up. But how can authors find out more about you and the kind of work you're looking for and how to submit to you? That basic
Yeah,
stuff?
there's you can just Google Storm Literary and there's my bio and general wish list on the agency page. I am not open to queries right now, but I am hoping to open one more time this year at some point. So if you want to know when that is, you can follow me on X under Jenna Schmenna. And then the best place to kind of keep up with where I'm at and what I'm looking for is my Substack. I have such a unique name, so if you literally Google me, you'll just find all my things right away because there's no other Jenna Satterthwaite in publishing.
And your
Only
Substack
one.
is just Jenna's Substack, so that's easy too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Easy to
great.
find, but yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that does it for us today at Well Published. I want to thank you, Jenna, and thank all of you who are online who I can't see and have no idea how many of you there are, which is really strange. But anyway, the video of this conversation and a recap of the takeaways will be posted tomorrow morning on my Substack, which is mfalore.com, and also on Jenna's Substack shortly thereafter, whenever you decide to do it. As I mentioned earlier, my next guest on Well Published is the mega best-selling author of Orphan Train and the Exiles, Christina Baker Klein. We'll be live on Tuesday, April 28th, so at the end of the month. Watch this space. Until then, you can find Well Published videos archived at mfalore.com and also on the MFA Lore YouTube channel. All of them are over there. So again, Jenna, thank you so much.
My
And
pleasure.
all of
Thank
you
you.
watching. And bye for
Take
now.